our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bread, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best and we're successful. Come watch our show. It's time to start, enjoy the show.
Welcome in, everyone, to Betting Weekly Live. It is Friday, the 3rd of October. You're with Steve Wyss and Lewis Jones. We finished the week as we started it together here on Betting Weekly Live. Lewis, how are you doing?
Yeah, Friday feeling, Steve, isn't it? I mean, what a way to top and tail the week by spending 45 to an hour in your company. I mean, it doesn't really get better than that. Yeah, lots to look forward to this weekend, lots to look forward to this evening from a punting perspective. So, yeah, always a pleasure to be here, and hopefully we'll find some winners, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done on your best bet on Monday, getting on those unders. I know a lot of people who were greatly benefited by that suggestion, Lewis. Let's just say that. I think,
it was a really not as comfortable watch as I would have hoped, but when that second goal went in at 1-1, was sort of half hour left, wasn't there? I was sort of worried that we were going to get a bad beat there, but no, it went to plan. So that's always nice to for people to make a few quid off some of the angles that we're providing. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Talk about bad beats. Yesterday, one of the biggest soccer bets was Roma to win the second half against Lille at -130, $42,000 bet. And
how many missed penalties was there? Was that the
three missed penalties in one go, wasn't it? Incredible bad beat there. I mean, yeah, that would have been 1-1 in the 88th minute, and that would have been probably a winning bet, and instead it's a loser. 50,000 on Porto money line in play at -106. I'm glad that one won. I gave that as my best bet of the day. That would have been $50,000 on my head there, probably, Lewis. In the NFL, though, the Bet Rivers have cleaned up here, Lewis. $214,000 bet on the Rams -7 against the 49ers. 100,000 on the Red Sox money line against the Yankees. Red Sox didn't even score a run. The Guardians as well. $61,000 bet on the money line at -123. That's a loser. Bet Rivers are jumping for joy here. Some of those big losers on the board.
Well, we need to make that. We need to put that record straight here, then, don't we? We need to start firing some winners for the punters. So Bet Rivers, so we can get some back, because the punters are obviously reeling here after the last couple of days in America of the big results going the other way. So yeah, let's get some money back in those bank accounts for people.
As T. Martin said, the Rams game was a bad beat. I mean, that's all that seems to happen in Rams games this season. The Eagles-Rams game as well. There's been a lot of bad beats over there in the NFL. But welcome in, everyone. Steve from Lynn, good to see you. Rick Haley as well. Duncan, Ming Chung, Villa fan. Got to be pleased with that win, even though you had a losing bet there, Villa fan, last night. Brian as well. Dan Robot, good to see you in chat. Gurney, Moose 10, Real Brennan King, Dave Clark, all in there. And yes, we've got plenty to discuss today. But first of all, I've got to remind people, please do sign up for the Betting Weekly newsletter. The Insider will be released into your inbox within the next hour or two. So for those who have not signed up for free, then do get on with it. There's going to be bets and picks for all the Premier League games and some big Euro games in this edition of the Insider. But in terms of Friday, where shall we start today? We've got matches to discuss across Europe, including 2 sizable clashes in England. But we will start in Germany for Hoffenheim against Koln here. Hoffenheim are the favourites, only just minus money against the newly promoted side, Koln, who started well but have drifted off recently. You can get them at plus 255. Just seem to have lost their way last 2 or 3 games, conceding goals suddenly again after a solid enough start. And the way to usually go with Hoffenheim fixtures really is to back the goals. And it's a bit annoying that the Asian goal line's over 3 at minus 118 with Bet Rivers. I wanted a little bit I wanted to be a bit greedier, but it is Hoffenheim involved. They've been scoring an insane amount of goals right since the pre-season, really. So that would have to be my lean on the game, over 3 Asian goals. And really, if Hoffenheim show their quality here, -110 might look a big price, because they are ultimately facing a newly promoted team. Koln are in 7th place, but I don't see them lasting there for too much longer. The nickname of the Billy Goats, of course, Koln. They've got their own live goat as a mascot in home fixtures. But I don't think they've got much to bleat about here this evening myself. So I'd be looking at an Asian goal line of over 3. It's as a lean. It's one of those, Lewis, you want more. You just want to be greedier. You want a better line. But you're not always going to get it, are you?
No, it's true. There's probably, we're going to come on to a game later, actually, in League R, where I'm on the same line, Steve, in terms of trying to be greedy to try and just eke out a little bit more juice in the price by maybe being more aggressive than it needs to be, just to stack up more of the angles in our favour. But it's always a challenge, isn't it, to try and find that balance between getting on the winning bet, but also trying to squeeze out as much of juice as you can in the price. So it's something which I'm always trying to improve on. I'm not sure there's a right or wrong answer sometimes to the way we try and eke out the value by trying to combine certain lines and trying to jump on where we can. So it's a difficult one, but I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I would have to just say lean, because I don't think you're getting great line value. You're probably just getting the fair line, and it is a match where I am confident there's a minimum of 3 goals. It's certainly not the sort of match I'm looking for a crazy high-scoring contest. Forget stuff like ladders and anything like that. That said, 94% of the money is on the over market for this game. Koln have been backed on the money line. 86% of the money is on Koln here rather than Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim are in negative on the money line. Maybe they might drift before kickoff. We might even get evens or more on Hoffenheim, which I think might look a little bit big, but they're not the sort of team you ever want to trust that many times on a money line. It's just the goals is the better angle with them. So that match kicks off at 7:30 UK time. So that's 2:30 p.m. local. 15 minutes later, we go to Serie A, Verona against Sassuolo. You were a man in form on Monday in Serie A, Lewis. With a yes. He smiles and he laughs now.
If one from one can consider me in form for my record in Serie A this season, then yes, I am a man in form for Serie A. It's not a league I really know too much about or follow, but sometimes the numbers just screamed a bet, and it was a shots bet that came flying in on Monday, so that was good. Nothing today though in the game. Thought everything was priced up accordingly in that one shots wise. Didn't have the inside knowledge or the knowledge of the players or anything to really find a value play in there. So I'm leaving it in your capable hands, Steve, even though I'm such an expert on Serie A.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find my stat sheet for this player, and I'm going to have to go off the cuff here, because the player I really like on a props play, I mean, in terms of money line, by the way, +143 Verona, Sassuolo +200, and the tie +210. I've not got a clue who's going to win this game. This is where you need a 3-sided coin, genuinely. And over under again is a toss of a coin for me. I'd maybe lean over just on the odds, but the player I do like is Gift Orban. This is someone who I followed right from his days in Norway when he was a very young man, and he's been around the block with a few clubs since then. It hasn't quite worked out for him, but I think he's landed in. Well, again, I don't think he's actually landed at a great club, sadly, but he can hopefully take Serie A by storm a little bit. I think you can look at backing Gift Orban to score here at +250. He's the most likely scorer for Verona. He's on penalty duty. And the other bet I like is over 1.5 shots on target for Gift Orban at +165.
I was going to say if you were going to mention the shots there, Steve, because I did. He's the guy that jumped out when I was looking at the numbers. I think he's had 17 shots in his last 3 starts. So obviously he's getting into positions where he's firing towards goal. So the prices they still look very short to me. But if you wanted to attack that over 1.5 line, which it sounds like you're going to, then he's probably going to give you a good chance here.
Let's hope this is a gift. I do have the shots on target stats now. And I mean, it was quite impressive. He had 2 shots on target against Juventus. He had 7 total shots in that game. 7 against Juventus
as well. Yeah, it's amazing.
3 shots on target against Cremonese. And then against Roma last week, they lost that one. He had 4 total shots and 1 on target. So he's firing in the efforts. His actual shot line is 3.5, that's a fair line, I think. He probably goes over it. He loves to fire. He's an individual sort of player. He wants to score. He's selfish, which you kind of want that from a striker anyway, I think, in certain respects. So, yeah, anytime scorer and the shots on target over 1.5 at +165. He's the player I'm looking out for here. You know, they are at home against a promoted side as well, so they should be getting opportunities. But in terms of match result, difficult game. 95% of the money's on Sassuolo. 71% of the over-under money's on the over. So, yeah, anyone betting on that game, put it in to chat. Just looking through the chat. Mike Wiss, that's my dad. My dad's watching the show. Love to see that. If it is him. He was cashing the winners in yesterday. And yeah, the Rayo Vallecano match did very well for me and Maserati Fox. I did enjoy that one.
There's a rumour you got the ladder out, Steve. Is this correct?
Yeah, it was a really strong ladder. Really strong. I enjoyed that one. Rayo and corners go hand in hand for me and them. Just having a look through now again at some of the comments. +300 Steve from Lynn's got on that on Gift Orban, I think. And sorry to hear Christopher Ross here. Lost so much money, nothing went right. My rule number 1 used to be don't bet during the midweek except for Champions League games. I'm sorry to hear that. All you can do is just bounce back the best you can the next opportunity, Christo. And if in future, then just stick to weekends or UCL. You can have everyone can have their own betting rules, and you can stick to them sometimes. But we can't. We're humans, aren't we, Lewis? At the end of the day, we sometimes all make mistakes.
Yeah, mindset's so important. If you're going to be if you want to take this game seriously and try and make profit where you can, mindset is absolutely important. And if you feel like sometimes there's a time where you just think it hasn't gone too right and you're not in the greatest of headspace potentially to continue betting for that next round of fixtures, whatever, just take a week away. Just have a break, reset, and that can help you in the long run. I think it's something I've done in the past when it's you've had a bad week and you think everything's going against you. Just step away and try and concentrate on what you've been good at in the past. I think so. Yeah, definitely, it's psychological in betting. It's really important that you stay switched on and you stay in the right frame of mind, because it can get us all sometimes.
Brian says, I always skip a week after a big win. One of the betting mentors I used to work with a long time, well, about 10 years ago now, I remember he always used to say, if you have a really good Saturday, don't bet much on the Sunday. And I think I remember one week I went like 5-0 on the Saturday, and I'm like, I've got another 5 bets for you on the Sunday. And he's like, no, not taking them. Have a day off today, because it is funny how that works sometimes.
Well, I think the word is overconfidence, isn't it? Sometimes and then you can be a little bit in terms of staking as well. If you're playing with more profit, there is a potential to give it all back on the next day. So absolutely, totally can see that. It's one of these things you learn with experience, isn't it? And some things work better for other people, and some people can just, if they're on a hot streak, they can continue to it, and that's when they're at their best, when they're confident. So it works either way, doesn't it? For a lot of people, you just got to try and find that balance between where you're comfortable, I think. But yeah, this game, there's some great life lessons to be learned from betting, I think, and it's does stand us in good stead, I think, to deal with things in life.
Yeah, the dojo's really good for that. Neil Channing certainly wouldn't be taking a day off after he'd gone 5-0. He is an advocate. If it's a bet, it's a bet, according to Neil Channing. So everyone has their own sort of ways to go through it. Anyway, 3 fixtures now. We're going to rattle off. We're going to go to England and then to France. We'll start Championship. Actually, huge game, really. This Wrexham against Birmingham. On the face of it, for those who don't know, this might not seem like such a high-profile game, but this is like the battle of the American owners, Lewis, isn't it? 2 sides with huge ambitions. This might be a Premier League fixture in 5 years' time. Maybe shorter than that. But at the moment, it's a really high-profile Championship game. I think Birmingham, I mentioned to you today, I think a lot more was expected of them this season so far. There's a long way to go. They still may go up. They may get in the top 6, whatever. +125 to win here against Wrexham, who, mid-table-ish, done okay. And I suppose that's all you can ask the first season back in the second tier. But plus 205 for Wrexham, some might be interested in that price, I think, Lewis. I've just got a feeling that a lot of folk expected it to be more of a pick'em game. What do you think in moneyline terms?
Yeah, Hollywood Derby, I think they're calling this one, aren't they, Steve? Which is very fitting for our audience, I think, here. A lot of interest, obviously, stateside in these two teams due to the ownership. And yeah, I agree with you about Birmingham, actually. I've been disappointed in them so far this season. I think they were about third or fourth favourites for the title when things kicked off. And I think there was an expectation there that they'd make the step up from League One, take it in their stride, probably deal with the Championship quite comfortably. But I think they found it actually quite difficult to adapt, especially away from home. And it's something which did sort of cross my mind when I was assessing them earlier this season, was their inability to really take games to teams on the road. They're very controlled, very possession-orientated team under Chris Davis. And they're actually very low-scoring games on the road last season in League One. And just running the data today in terms of the average goals in their last 20 away games, it only sits at 2.2, which is low in itself. But then when you actually run the expected goals data per game, it actually drops to 1.85 in Birmingham's away games. And it's a very low figure considering how far clear they were, I thought, in League One last year, one of the best teams we've seen. So it's a very low figure. So it explains to me here why the unders is obviously well supported here, under 2.58 at minus 133. Steve, is that what the price is here still?
Latest odds for BetRivers, I'll just get them up actually. Before that, there was a couple of comments in chat which was very interesting here. Vancouver Canuck. Has anyone else noticed that the early championship matches usually end in draws? Last season, the early kickoff on a Saturday, get on the unders. That was the key there. Brian says Wrexham scoring consistently in the second half at plus 110. So, I mean, sorry, what was the price that you wanted, Lewis?
I was looking at it under 2.5 here. It's always a bet that I always want to look at in Birmingham games, but it just looked a bit too short earlier. I wonder if there's been any movement at all. It's under
minus 182. Minus 182.
For under 2.5.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's very short, isn't it? I think it's too short to be getting involved with, I think, here. And I think all the prices look about right in the outright market. I was struggling to find one, really. I mean, if you add some more weight into the unders, really, the fact that Wrexham started the season as quite an open, chaotic team, but I think the fact they've taken Connor Cody out of the firing line at centre half, the player that's been around for a long time, and I think he's probably finished now at this sort of level. And since they've taken him out of the team in the last two games, they've looked a lot more secure. 2-1-1 draws. The XG against has been sorted out, and I think taking him out of the firing line has helped. So that only adds further juice to the fact we could be in for a very sort of cagey, low-scoring game on the outright. But I have found a bet in one of the shots on target market, Steve, which I mentioned to you earlier. It's a bit of a niche play, but if you go through
this one,
yeah, this is on the this is Wrexham to have more shots on target than Birmingham at plus 150, which I think is an absolutely monster price considering some of the data I've been looking at about Birmingham shots on target over the past maybe 12 months or so, really. And it's a bet you can find on the match and team shot tab on Bet Rivers, and you scroll down to Wrexham to have most shots on target. I think it's the last bet actually right at the bottom of the page. And yeah, plus 150 for Wrexham to have more shots on target looks a really big price to me. I think I'm not sure how they come to the conclusion of this price, obviously through algorithms, etc. But I think it's way off what the real price should be here, because if you look at Birmingham's recent form, they've lost 3 on the spin now away from home, all without scoring. But more worryingly, there's been that sort of chance creation, because they've only registered 1 shot on target in those 3 away games and 0 in the last 2. So obviously this bet would have won in all 3 of those recent away games, the opposition to have more shots on target. And if you just look at the aggregate figures from those games, it's 9-1 in the favour of the opposition. But so I thought that interested me to the starting point. But when I started to dig a little bit deeper into Birmingham's sort of longer term shots on target data in League One, where they should have been, well, they were the best team by a mile, but they only averaged 3.6 shots on target per game away from home. And 11 teams had a higher average on the road for shots on target per game than Birmingham, which I found absolutely staggering, considering how highly rated they were in League One and how dominant they were in winning the league. So that sort of told me something here, that the manager, Chris Davis, is very, very pragmatic away from home and likes to keep things controlled, very tight, very possession-orientated. probably could be something which is could be his downfall in the longer term. So just on that basis, Wrexham at plus 150 here to have more shots on target on Birmingham was really, really appealing to me. But then when you throw into the mix, the last fixture between these two, they played each other in League One last season. Was Wrexham as the home team, Birmingham as the away team. Wrexham won the shots on target race, Steve, 7-1 in that match, which was a piece of data which I thought there must have been a red card. There must have been game state must have been in favour of Wrexham. But no, the game was 1-1 from the 17th minute and ended 1-1. So Wrexham racked up all these shots on target in a level game state, which is really crucial to add that into the context here. And I just think the market should be closer than it is here. Than the home. Remember, Wrexham are the home team here as well. They're going to be expected to go and take the game to Birmingham. So the fact we can get plus 150 on Wrexham to have more shots on target than Birmingham is a bet that really interested me. I say it's quite a niche play, but just when you run the numbers and you look at the two styles of the teams, I think the price is wrong. I know it closer to sort of a pick 'em really around even money. So got to get involved at plus 150.
Yeah, I remember watching highlights of that game on the documentary, the Birmingham documentary, because they always, the cameras are going to be not just there in terms of Sky cameras and stuff tonight. There's loads of other cameras there. And I'm pretty sure that the Birmingham very lucky draw last year in this fixture. They came back into the dressing room and he absolutely gave it large, the manager. That was effing bad, effing this and all that. They were really poor. And Wrexham were going to be fired up for this. Okay, well, it's time to now touch on the next topic. And loads are already mentioning it in chat. And that is the weather. And the weather affects this game, Bournemouth, and also in Paris, we're going to talk about very soon. So, weather and bad weather. I mean, we've got to mention Storm Amy is coming in to the UK. Well, right now, it's started. And it's going to go all the way through into the early hours of Sunday. Heavy rain, very strong winds in certain parts are going to be affecting matches. So, Lewis, is it a simple case of when there is, a lot of rain, wind, should we automatically look to unders? I must say it saved me yesterday in the brand match. The forecast was terrible all day, and I went with brand money line instead of the overs that I normally would have done. So it saved me. So I think it's a really interesting debate to have. I looked and Wrexham's not as bad as Bournemouth. It's not as bad as Paris. But nevertheless, the winds are up about 45, potentially gusts up to 40, 45 mile an hour. Does the weather come into your mind when you are betting in soccer?
Well, you've got the right man on here, Steve, because if there's a man as best placed to deal with Storm Amy, it's me, because my wife is called Amy. So I deal with Storm Amy on a daily basis. So this is it's very fitting that I'm on. So I should be really well versed in dealing with the problems that Storm Amy can come my way here. But yeah, you mentioned unders there, and I think that is the automatic play really. When you're looking at bad weather in terms of rain and storms, you do think that under goal line is the way to go. And I do agree with that to a certain extent. But I think that the key thing I like to look for when there is storm, if there's storms forecast or there's bad weather, is the strength of the wind. In terms, I think that's the real sort of disruptor for a football match, like strong gusts of winds. I think we've all obviously played in bad weather playing football back in the day when I used to play. And I always found it very, very difficult to play in very strong winds. And I think that can affect a game more than just driving rain. I think, especially if a team is a very direct team that like to get the ball forward, they like to play off aerial duels, they like to win corners, win set pieces. I think the sort of tactics can go out the window in that sort of sense, really, when the wind's gusting, because I think teams like the old-fashioned Burnley team would always really struggle to play in wind when they went direct. So I would always look at the strength of the wind rather than the level of rain in terms of coming to decisions about how it's going to affect a team's ability to be their best, like putting tactical context to it to a certain extent. I think that's probably the best way to assess how the weather can affect a certain team's performance. Are you more simplistic than that and just like to attack the unders where you can?
It always puts me off overs when there's wind and there's rain around, especially wind. I do agree. I think it's probably a bigger factor. Mr. Anderson was asking, what about corners with weather? And someone was mentioning this yesterday. I don't really know how corners and weather are linked To be fair, Mr. Anderson.
Does he mean the ability to score from corners? Because
possibly, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to be conceding too many and long throws either, because random stuff could happen. But I think the problem with when there's weather is, look, I've just walked back today, and it's been horrible out there. That's just me outside, not playing any event or anything, having to focus, and it's horrible. Yeah. Not many people relish it in any sport, or some are just better than others. Looking at Bournemouth is a terrible forecast. Nearly 50-mile-an-hour winds today. I think both of these games in England will be under the goal line. And there's a little parlay I'm going to have a bit of pizza money on, under 1.5 goals in both games at plus 886. I think that's worth a little bit of a go, because look, you could play 2-0-0s, but anything could happen. A fluke goal or anything, an own goal, a goal from a corner, whatever. But I think under 1.5 parlay could be worth looking at. We will move to this Bournemouth game now. Here we go. Bournemouth against Fulham. Bournemouth minus money. Fulham at plus 295. I mean, the over goal line at minus 107. Under 2.5 goals at minus 117. Bit of a shame we're not getting a proper 2.75 line here. We would have had the 2.75 line last season, I'm sure. But the goals have been a bit down this season in the Premier League, and especially in Fulham games, I suppose. Bournemouth started the season well, but very, very disappointing, I think, the last 2 weeks for them, Lewis. They had a good, favourable spot against Newcastle. Then they played a promoted team, Leeds, and my boys Leeds should have beat them last week, and we dominated them. That shocked me more than anything. Forget result-wise, we dominated them. So of Bournemouth, but they're a funny team, Bournemouth. They can come good at any moment, I must say. So in terms of money line and stuff like that, is minus 106 fair?
Yes, I think it is, Steve, here, because I think I've got actually Bournemouth are one of the teams in the Premier League which I think I've got a really good read on about when to back them and when to fade them. And I think it's based on the type of opposition they are facing. Because basically I like to back them when they're playing teams that like to play possession-based football, as that's when their really intense pressing game works under Andoni Iraola, because the way to stifle Bournemouth is to play very direct and beat the press in terms of making the game very, very sort of physical, very intense. So teams like you mentioned there, Leeds and Newcastle are both very direct physical teams in the Premier League. And Bournemouth can't work their high turnovers. They can't press teams deep into the final third, and they can't get a hold of the game because the opposition team are just bypassing the press, playing very aggressively, playing very direct. And that negates the Bournemouth threat. But when teams like Fulham play Bournemouth, they like to play football. They like to get the ball down. They like to come out with the ball. They like their centre-backs and their central midfielders to start their attacks, play through the thirds. And that's seen through their passing data, really. Since the start of last season, they ranked very high for passes attempted inside their own half. And I think that's going to be their downfall here, because this is what Bournemouth want to do. They want to press you high. They want to set the tone. They want to cause these traps, these suffocations they do in the final third with this Andoni Iraola press, which is exceptional when it works. And it's worked in the last 2 home fixtures with Fulham. Won them both to 0 in the last couple of seasons. And I just think this Bournemouth press is amongst the best in Europe when they're allowed to cause these high turnovers and teams just play into their hands in terms of trying to play through midfield. And that's what Fulham are going to do here. And I think they're going to get caught out. And I think it's going to set the platform here for a Bournemouth win. So I don't need, when there's prices hovering around even money for Bournemouth in these sorts of spots against teams that are going to play exactly how they want them to play. And Fulham are just going to fall into their trap, I think. And when the price is right around evens, I don't need a second invitation to back Bournemouth. So I think the price is right here. I'd have it a little bit shorter, so I'm happy to get involved tonight with Bournemouth on the money line. I think the game sets up perfectly for them from a tactical point of view. Marco Silva, the Fulham manager, he's not one to throw curveballs in. He likes to play the same way, keep it very consistent, likes to play through the thirds. And I just think Sander Berge and Sasa Lukic in the midfield, they're going to get harried the hell out of by this Bournemouth press. And I think that's going to set the platform for a big performance from Bournemouth. So, looking forward to backing them tonight, Steve. This is the spot I like to get involved with them in.
That's a great explanation. It almost explains why the last 2 matches they've not been quite at it. So
I was on Leeds as well. Leeds were my best bet last weekend in the Premier League, just because of this reason, because of the way you'd seen them play this season. really direct, really physical. They don't mess about with the ball. They get the ball forward into Calvert-Lewin, and that's how you beat Bournemouth. You make it into a game which they don't really want it to be. They don't like it when they have to sort of break down a really physical, low block team. And Fulham aren't that really. They'll look to play. They'll look to press through the midfield. And Bournemouth, I think, are going to catch them here many times in midfield and press the hell out of them. So yeah, it sets up well for them to get involved here. Anything around even money, I thought was very fair.
Nigel makes some good points about how the wind wouldn't really affect most Premier League grounds because of the stands, but in the lower leagues, the wind can have a huge effect, and cards go down in bad weather. That's a good point. Rain and snow referee are more lenient, really, aren't they? They tend to give it the players a bit more slack there. But there has been biggest bet on the game is actually on cards. Nearly $5,000 on Fulham most cards at plus 110 is the biggest bet here. 82% of the money's on Bournemouth, 68% of the tickets, 73% of the money's on the over. I mean, in terms of the actual pitch, I think it will be a bit on the wet side. However, I've just been looking at the radar. It's been that sort of day. Usually looking at the radar when I'm playing cricket or golf or something, but it looks like the rain's going to sort of be much lighter now, or even stop. The wind is going to be up, so I don't think we're in danger of the pitch being at Blackburn level waterlogged pitches. Premier League pitches are generally a lot better anyway, aren't they, Lewis? Even down at Vitality there.
Yeah, I think that I actually think Bournemouth might revel in these conditions as well, because they play like a storm to a certain extent. They like it when things get a bit wet and wild on the pitch, and in the way that Andoni Iraola wants to create chaos on football pitches. And that's where his teams, the players that he's developed at Bournemouth, that's where at their best. The likes of Semenyo, the likes of Kluivert, they love playing in like helter-skelter, hectic games, which are a bit crazy. And maybe the conditions would help Bournemouth in that regard, because it could feel that sort of game.
Yeah, Danny, I saw your comment there yesterday on the channel. I forgot to respond. In terms of ladders, what I always say with ladders is make sure the bottom rung of your ladder, make sure you get a return from that you won't lose overall, even if the other higher levels lose. So make sure that bottom level gets you at least even on the day, and after that, you can make your own judgment what your numbers are going to be above that. But the most important thing with ladder betting is that bottom rung is the most important bet of all of them by a long shout. So that's my advice there. Me and Lewis, maybe we'll talk about this on the Betting Zoo episode that we're going to do next week on ladders. So just looking through some of the other comments here. Brian says Bournemouth first to score 4 of the last 5 games, all the goals before the 30th minute. That's an interesting one, actually. They do come out of the traps quick, though, don't they?
That's a really smart angle, actually. I can see them doing that tonight, fast out the traps. They're at home. They're going to be trying to take the game to them, and they do put teams under pressure from the first whistle. So yeah, really like that play. Really like those early goals angles, and that they're definitely runners. Look like big prices, those.
Barak Levav, what are our thoughts on Leeds versus Tottenham tomorrow? Worryingly, I actually quite like Leeds not to lose. So I would go 1x. So Tottenham fans, maybe you're in business there. What do you think, Lewis? Are Leeds going to get another result?
I'm worried about Tottenham, to be honest. They're on my watched them. I was covering the game actually at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Watched them against Wolves up close, and wasn't impressed at all with the way they went about it in terms of their attacking patterns and their chance creation. Very low, worrying XG from open play numbers over the past 5 weeks. Even though the results are holding up okay, sort of getting back in games, coming from behind, they're not really creating big moments, big chances. And I think Thomas Frank has got an issue to sort there in terms of, I think he's a very capable and very smart man, but I think dealing with the hectic schedule at Spurs, where he's playing twice a week, he's not used to it. He's not used to rotating that squad around yet, and I think there's no cohesion in the way they're attacking. Defensively, they're fine. I don't like them going forward at the moment at all. So yeah, I'm with Leeds tomorrow. I think they've got a good chance of getting a result.
Yeah, and they've just come on the back of that match at Bodo Glimt. They were lucky to draw that game, but they were given a real runaround, proper physical test. And the only player I like, Javi Simons. Yeah, I think he's underused right now, and maybe in time he will get used a lot more. He's the one I think will offer them something. But you are right. Something's a bit disjointed about Spurs right now. I think they'll be quite happy to see this international break, to be honest with you. They
need to play Simmons in the 10 as well. I think he's wasted out on the left. They need to sort of build that. He's a player that you need to get the service into in dangerous areas, in central areas. So they're not doing that at the moment. Struggling to find him, and he's not started as well as I thought he did. I thought he'd really kick on in the Premier League and start quite quick because he's sort of suited to the style, but not happening for him.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of set pieces, Leeds actually very good at attacking set pieces. Not that great defending them, and Spurs, to be fair, I think they scored from a set piece against Glimt or from near enough a set piece.
Van der Ven,
wasn't it?
Van der Ven, yeah.
Yeah, I could see Leeds conceding from a set piece. To be fair, tomorrow, I will say that much. Don't know
if the wind is blowing though, Steve, the wind's blowing again. That sort of can affect a team that like to play direct set piece football, can't it? So if the weather's really bad in Leeds tomorrow,
it will be bad as well.
Well, there we go. I think that'd be difficult for Spurs to try and conjure up their usual chaos from set pieces if the wind is blowing. So that would come into my thinking just when assessing that maybe how that negates their strength from set pieces, because they are obviously a very set piece orientated team now under Thomas Frank. So that might just be another positive for Leeds tomorrow.
Just going back to the Bournemouth game, you've actually got a player prop, but I forgot to mention here. Lewis goes through the player prop.
Yeah, Josh King, shot on target, plus 108, youngster in the Fulham ranks. I think he's a really exciting player, Steve. Actually, I think he's come from nowhere really into the first team this season. He's only 18 years old, and Marco Silva's not usually a manager to trust young players consistently, especially in the first team. He likes sort of ready-made, experienced players. That's where he's thrived really. He's managed to get the best out of the likes of Iwobi and Jimenez, who have all sort of coming towards a little bit of a dead end in their career, and he's managed to get them going again. But he's thrown King in from the start, and he started all 6 Premier League games this season. And he's looked really, really comfortable at this level. And he's keeping out at Emile Smith Rowe, cost the club 40 million last summer. So this is obviously how highly they rate him. And what I like about him is how mature he is, and you have to have that side to your game if you're going to break into a Premier League first team at the age of 18. He's just a very clever player that sort of understands where to run, where to move the ball, and he's not like a usual youngster who just runs around really enthusiastically and gets a bit sort of overawed by the occasion. Very intelligent, looks like he's always got time on the ball, and I think we're watching the emergence of a really serious player here, and he's been shooting as well, Steve, which makes him a great bet tonight, I think, in this plus money to get a shot on target. He's had 9 shots in his 6 starts, 5 of them been on target. And he's just very accurate based on the early evidence that I've seen from him when he's in and around the box, always looking to hit the target. The shot on target is the official play, but I would also lean his goal scorer price here. Plus 500 we're getting. He hasn't scored for Fulham yet, but with someone with that sort of type of shots data and the XG behind him and looking at his shot maps where he's shooting from, very central areas, I think he's going to score soon enough. And I think we just got to time it right to get on. Maybe tonight isn't the night because I quite fancy Bournemouth to win the game. But I think it's one to have in your radar over the next few weeks with his price at sort of plus 500 in that sort of ballpark. He's one to keep an eye on. But for tonight, I just like his price for a shot on target. And he's a player to watch, I think. He's a really exciting player.
Where is the lamb sauce? I like the under here. He says, I'm thinking about maybe taking a first half Bournemouth goal, lines up with Fulham away trends, and he's thinking 1-0, correct score, half-time. Score could be that. Wouldn't surprise me if it was that. Absolutely. Lukic assist worth a look, says Onana's goalkeeping coach, 11-1, and he's on corners for Fulham.
What I will say about that, I think that's an interesting angle. But those two in the central midfield for Fulham, Lukic and Sander Berge, I haven't got the data in front of me, but I don't think they've had a goal involvement in their last, between them, maybe 50, 60 games. From a central midfield point of view, they're not the two that contribute in terms of attacking play. They're very much 2 sitters, aren't they? 2 number 6s that just keep the ball ticking over. That's where Fulham have lacked for so long in terms of getting goals from central areas. And this may be.
I mean, if he's on corners now, though, that is obviously a big positive. I don't know actually. I don't watch enough of Fulham in general to know what their set piece hierarchy is. To be fair, but. Yeah, I mean, from open play, it's been an issue. We know that it's been an issue for them.
But you're getting the price. You're getting the 11-1, and if he's on corners, Fulham, I think they've scored a couple of goals from corners this season, so potentially on something there. But the history does not bode well from the data about those two playing central midfield.
We've got a man on the ground here, James Pomeroy. Welcome into the chat. He's living in Bournemouth. Rainy, windy evening, stormy. Lots of mistakes, though, he thinks are going to be generated because of this weather, and so he's liking the goals. That is a point, to be fair. Mistakes can happen a lot more in these sort of conditions. It's a question of whether teams take advantage of it or not. Yeah.
Fantastic point made there. He did assist Jimenez's goal. That was their first one I think it was their first goal involvement between Lukic and Burge I think it might be 50 games or something. So that maybe it is the trend to
London bus syndrome might happen now.
Potentially.
You wait a long time for one and you get others as well. Great discussion there about the Bournemouth game. But just to recap, Bournemouth money line for you, Lewis, and that King shot on target. As I say, for me, I do think the unders for these two English games myself, but I do take James's point there about mistakes can happen also in these conditions. Let's move across the channel to Paris FC, for that matter, home against Lorient here this evening. Minus 132 favourites for the two promoted teams into the top flight. And this is an interesting one. You've actually got a bet you like in the game. And, normally I would totally agree with this one. Everything metrically, team news-wise, past form, head-to-head do point towards this. But again, there is going to be some rain in Paris. The weather's not great this part of Europe today. It's been raining all day there. It's not going to be windy, I'll say that much. So the wind isn't a factor here. This stadium, the Stade Charletti, I don't know how it's going to cope in the rain, to be honest with you. It's not the Parc de France. Let's see how it goes. But Lewis, to be fair, in terms of the raw numbers and the metrics and the form, you would have to look towards goals, right?
Yeah, I'm going for both teams to score an over 2.5. Sort of a same game parlay here. Minus 117 we can get. And I think we could just play the both teams to score and over 2.5 as singles. But I think I want to be greedy here and just combine them for a bigger price, because I always like combining these two bets instead of just taking the singles, because the amount of times where I've backed the over 2.5 line or the both teams to score line as a single, and the game has ended 2-1, Steve, which is probably the most common score line in football. That always stuck with me, and I always think I should have taken the bigger price on the over 2.5 and the both teams to score. That's always stuck with me. So I'm always quite confident here when the defenses are when the evidence is this clear that we're dealing with two teams that are going to be very goal heavy in this game. I'd much rather chance my arm and take the risk on the both teams to score and over 2.5 in a parlay when the price is right. And I think getting minus 117, that boost is worth it, because I think there's just so much evidence to support goals in this game. Paris, since promotion, have been playing very expansive style, haven't they? Matches have been very entertaining. Last 5 games, they've seen 22 goals scored, average of 4.4 goals per match, and all 5 of those saw the both teams to score land. And it's the underlying data behind those games as well. 39 big chances in those 6 games, which is 6.5 big chances per game, which is a really, really big figure. And I just think that's sort of points to them being a really consistent and reliable team to back over 2.5 goals at when the prices are right. I think the market might be sleeping on the true probabilities there a little bit. So I'm happy to get involved with the goals line here, and especially with the I think it's a good fixture to back in, because Lorient come up, didn't they, with Paris last season? So they're a newly promoted team as well, and they're averaging 3.8 total goals per 90 this season, involved in a 7-1 at Lille, 4-0 at Marseille, but they did beat Monaco 3-1 last week. So this theory of when two newly promoted teams meet in the division above, I always like to back the games to go over over the line set. It's more something I like to do in the Premier League, but it also is something which is on my radar when two teams meet in other competitions as well. Because I just think the sort of the carrot to go and get 3 points against one of your relegation rivals does lead to the games maybe being more open than what the algorithms are suggesting. And if you just look at the fixture in Paris last season between these two, Steve, it ended 3-2. So the bet would have copped quite easily then, and I think it's got a good chance of landing tonight. And I'll just rather combine the two aspects in a same game parlay to get a bigger price, rather than just taking the singles on the over 2.5 and the both teams to score.
Yeah, as I say, for me, the weather did kind of put me off, but I think I'm overthinking this one because I just think the way both have been playing this year suggests a lot of goals. I remember that 3-2. I watched it actually in the second tier last season. It was bonkers. Paris FC, for those who don't know, we haven't really talked much about them actually this season on live shows or on Euro shows. They are well backed, I mean, their owners are a very rich family. Red Bull are also linked with the club.
Yeah.
I think they've got something like a 20% stake. So this is a team that's actually legit got a top 10 budget, certainly in France. So, that's why they're the favourites. Some saying, minus 132 looks short on them. They're the better squad now. Olivier Pantaloni is the manager of Lorient, and he is down the years been very pragmatic, defensive, likes to go away from home and park a bus, or even at home against some of the big teams. And he will be furious about how many goals they've conceded and how many chances they've conceded. But after so long, and now I'm just wondering whether they're simply not good enough to actually, at the top level, he doesn't. They probably can't play the style he wants them to play. They've rocked and beat Monaco last week. That was really a big shock. Monaco were down 10 men for quite some time. But I think it's one of those, the manager won't be happy. He won't be happy how things are going, but I'm not sure he can do much about it. And that must be a horrible feeling, actually, when a manager's in that position. So I think, I don't think this is a bad bet, actually, Lewis, really. You can't argue against it. There's not much that points to, let's say, Paris FC games have been crazy. Brian says the corner handicap on Paris -1. That could be a good one. Over 1.5 first half goals, Mr. Anderson says there. Player props, Lamb Sauce is looking at Pierre-Lise Milou. He's usually a good candidate for that sort of thing, but he doesn't see any value in Paris FC money line. He's going to take both teams to score, yes, and let it be. Kenny Court, I'm going back to your question. Should you get someone to hold up the ladder before you go up it? Depends how strong that ladder is, Kenny, I think. And how many goals will Arsenal score against West Ham this weekend, Lewis? I don't think Arsenal have a massive win at all. I think West Ham can keep that relatively close. But what do you think?
Again, this whole weather scenario at the Emirates, if the wind picks up, set piece FC might be in trouble, mightn't they, Arsenal, in this game, if they can't score from set pieces. But I think the fact they brought in Eze now does give them a little bit of a different option in open play. I'm still not on the Arsenal bandwagon, though. I've promised myself this season I will not be getting involved with Arsenal in any outright market, Steve, and I'm sticking to my guns because I've just done too much dough in outright markets on Arsenal. I think the pressure will get to them at some point in the season. But yeah, no, they'll probably win tomorrow, but I wouldn't be too hot on their chances or covering a handicap or anything like that. I think it'll just be job done mode probably once again.
I've took under 3 Asian goals in that match myself tomorrow. I don't think West Ham will score. And at worst, I think it would be 3-0 Arsenal. But I think it'd be similar to the Olympiacos game midweek, except even worse weather, of course. So there is just one more game I want to talk about before we finish today. Osasuna against Getafe in La Liga. And the most interesting part about this game is the goal line is incredibly low at 1.75. And James Easton was on the live show the last time that in the midweek round last week, and he just took the over 1.5 in the Getafe game on pure principle of value, even if you fancy it or if you didn't. And I mean, almost inclined to do the exact same here, over 1.75 goals at -108. I mean, it's one of those where every single Getafe game has gone over 1.5 goals this season. So, you're going to cash something if that happens again. The last 5 head-to-head meetings have actually gone both teams score yes, which that's just a bit of a surprise because both of these sides can be locked into sort of low-scoring battles in the league in general, but not when they face each other. So, look, it's one of them. I'm not saying I over-fancy it, but when the line is that low, I can't help myself when the team involved as every match has gone over 1.5 goals. Getafe, in terms of actual XG numbers, they're not too bad in the table either, by the way. They're not terrible. They do have a bit of firepower about them at times. So just a little bet for me there on such a low goal line. I mean, over 2.5 goals is a huge price in this fixture. It is as big as +220. You don't get that very often, do you? No,
they're very much going to be a terrible watch, that game, by the sounds of it, isn't it? I'm not looking forward to tuning in unless you're backing the unders, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, based on the goal lines, it won't be. I mean, Osasuna are a funny team. I don't really get involved with them very often at all. I need to see a bit more from them. So just based on pure principles, really, of line value. But I've got some breakdowns for that game. And 90% of the money's on the over. So the public are getting tempted in like I am, really. And professionals perhaps as well. So, 93% of the tickets as well on the over. Getafe have been backed, 81% of the money, like the dog in this game. I mean, Osasuna haven't won that many fixtures this season, just 2 wins this season. So it might be a little bit tricky. But that will pretty much that will sum up the day. We've had a great discussion, Lewis. Really enjoyed that one. Give us your best bet of the day.
Oh, it's tough. I quite like everything I put up, really. I mean, I'll be back in them all. But so Bournemouth money line, I think they're around even money. That's a bet. Josh King shot on target. That's a bet, I think. We've also got the Wrexham's had more shots on target than Birmingham at plus 150, wasn't it? I mean, that's
that looks a really good bet.
I'll be backing that as well. And then going to be goals in Paris as well. So both teams are scoring over 2.5. So I can't separate all of them. I'll be having probably 1 unit on all 4, Steve.
Very good indeed. I do like that Wrexham shots on target bet. Probably the best one for me would be going back to that German fixture over 3 Asian goals, I suppose. But it's an interesting night. I'm going to be. I'm hoping that little parlay can come in from me for under 1.5 goals in England for a bit of pizza money. But best of luck, whatever everyone is taking. Do tune into Betting Weekly Extra Time, which will drop on the channel in 10 minutes' time with me, James, and Dan Roebuck today. We had a great show, picks across the board over the weekend. And then, Betting Weekly Live next week is going to be Dan on the show, I think the first 2 days of next week. We enter an international break territory, Lewis, again. I don't really want the international break to come this time.
I know what you mean. Professionally, I could do with the break, to be honest. It's been quite hectic, but also we're just starting to get going, aren't we? Trends are starting to form. The season's really kicking in, and we've got to go and watch England play, I don't know, Malta again, haven't we? So it's a bit of a bump in the road, but maybe we just need a little bit of time to reset and maybe have a look at the anti-post markets as well. I see them jumping out. 2
p.m. Eastern time, we've got Betting Weekly Hardball. Adam the Bull's going to be hosting that one, and then Fast Break show later on with Sarah and Wes. Betting Weekly The Edge is going to be on with Doug Kaziri and Dustin Fox and Alan the Bull as well later on. And there should be a Betting Weekly Game Bet Match episode with Sean and Nigel dropping today if he hasn't already. So keep your eye out for more content on this channel. Have a great day. Let's cash some tickets. Have a wonderful weekend as well. Remember to gamble responsibly. And Lewis, it was a great pleasure again. I'm sure we'll see each other soon on Betting Weekly Live and the Betting Zoo episode next week.
Looking forward to it, Steve. Thanks as always.
Be good. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.